Welcome, welcome, welcome to What We Watch. We have Mogul Productions here, Jake Frazier with Mogul Official and What We Watch. Thank you. Today we are going to discuss the value of NFTs to filmmakers and fans. What does that mean? What is an NFT? What is Web3? What is Film 3? And how are we supporting independent artists? And why is this a conversation under What We Watch? Really excited. I want to introduce Jake Fraser. Jake, welcome to the stage. Thank you for joining.
Hey guys, yeah, thanks very much for hosting. Happy to be here, and hopefully you guys are all having a good day.
Yes, yes, yes. It's Wednesday. It's What We Watch Wednesday. We're here to learn, Jake. We're here to ask questions. We're here to get involved. We're here to really understand Film 3 and how we can be supportive of independent artists that are trying to make art that we love and enjoy, right? So, a little bit of background give us a little bit of background for Mogul Productions, Jake, and we'll just kick it off right now.
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, yeah, thanks for hosting, guys. And so just to rewind things back to, I guess, the start, in terms of like what we're about and how we came to form the company, and then I can kind of discuss more about how we're using our products to solve problems as it is today. But yeah, the company Mogul has been around since 2018, so it's coming up to what 4 or 5 years now, which is decent amount of time within this space, and really fortunate to have an amazing team both on the blockchain side but also the film side as well. And in terms of how the idea of Mogul actually started, back in the ideation phase was actually based off the film Deadpool. So that film, for those of you who may or may not have seen it, it's kind of like the R-rated superhero film with Ryan Reynolds, and that was shot in Vancouver, where our team's from. And basically, that film wasn't going to get made into a cinematic release because the kind of studios and production houses didn't believe an R-rated superhero film would resonate well with an audience. So that story actually leaked online via YouTube and the trailer, and then that became viral and was a smash hit with the fans. And then the kind of power of the crowd really help propel that story to a cinematic release, and then the rest is history. It's one of the most successful franchises at the box office in history. So that was kind of the background on the whole concept of like leveraging power of the crowd and making sure awesome stories get told. So that was, I guess, to take you way back, and then off the back of that, we've then kind of like implementing that idea to like Web3 technologies and blockchain. So we first started more in like the DeFi realm, with kind of leveraging that to help raise financing for films. So that is the main issue or problem we're trying to solve within the industry, is giving independent filmmakers the chance to sell their own IP on our platform with to build their own audience that are of engaged film fans that want to kind of get involved from the whole script to screen process. So that's kind of the core business, and then happy to kind of dive into as we go. So
that's amazing. That's amazing history, and listeners of What We Watch. That's why we have Mogul Productions here with us today. Part of the reason is because we're aligned on kind of our goals and our pillars to make sure that we're supporting independent artists, that they can have, like Mogul was saying, like Jake was saying, a little bit more power over their IP, so we can enjoy the films and TV shows that we love from independent artists, and that studios don't have. The different kind of studios that are the traditional way of financing and making it to the big box office, that we can have a little bit more say, and we can support those artists to get those unique types of unique types of films and products for us. And so, again, as you know, for What We Watch, one of our pillars is, again, to highlight and support independent audiences and independent artists and connect them more deeply with their audiences. So really exciting. So I'm going to let Jake kind of get into this portion for like 20 minutes to really kind of dive into the democratizing the film industry and how are we making money, right? A lot of times we get excited about supporting these artists because we enjoy their work, but to that point, it is their work, it is their job. So how are we helping gain independent filmmakers gain access to financing through NFTs, right? And what are the barriers for that? And how can we, as audience members, as consumers, support those and be involved in the NFT world as well? And I'll briefly introduce Rio, who's on the stage. He'll speak a little bit later. But Rio is one of my partners and also a fantastic artist within the creative NFT space as well. And he is also co-owner of a production company out of Atlanta that has created a few films. So very excited to have you guys. Thank you for joining. Tweet this out. And Jake, I'll let you take it away. After Jake is done with his lecture, we'll have about 15 to 20 minutes. So please feel free to ask any questions. If you have any DMs or you want to, you don't want to come up to the stage and ask any questions, feel free to DM us. You can DM me or What We Watch Film TV, the co-host up here, and we'll make sure we get those questions to Jake and or Rio so we can continue the conversation. I will be quiet now. Thank you, Jake. Take it away.
Fantastic. Yeah. So thanks for that, guys. And as well, like if I'm saying something that you need clarity on, or you'd like to ask a question, like just feel free to cut me off, because I want this to be as like collaborative as possible. But with that being said, like obviously I touched on a bit of the history of the company and kind of why we formed, and kind of before I get into more of like a macro discussion on film and entertainment and blockchain, I would like to just kind of dive into our product a bit more to kind of give some people some context on where we're coming from in regards to the problems we're trying to help solve. So with that, as I mentioned, we kind of originally started with the DeFi route. We helped finance 3 different films using that, and then as the I guess you could say the NFT boom over the last couple of years, we've extended our product offering to have a fully functional NFT marketplace, which is cross-chain on both Ethereum and BSC. And then within that, we've also got our utility token, which is called Stars. And Stars acts as the glue within the whole ecosystem. So that has a variety of different use cases. You can use that to buy and sell NFTs. You can use that to stake on the platform to earn an APR via rewards on the platform itself. You can also use Stars to vote on different components of a film, whether that's voting to go into production or different elements of the production process. And there's also use for governance as well with the token. So that's kind of a few of the use cases. So I just wanted to kind of touch on that quickly before I kind of dive in to the other stuff. And then off the back of that, from a team standpoint, we really recognize the importance of having both a strong technical and blockchain team coupled with a really strong like kind of award-winning production team where people that are on the ground for like the last 10, 20 years with a plethora of contacts and ability to open doors, because without the other, it is very hard to build a business that's trying to work on the convergence of two very polar opposite industries. So really fortunate to have a great group of people working with us. So with that being said, in terms of diving into the whole realm of Web3 mixed with film, which is now the kind of popular term has been Film 3, that's being thrown around a lot, as you mentioned. So with that, like I guess our stance on that, one of the main things that we're focusing on is the I guess like the redistribution of power within the film industry. So with that, to give you some context, if you're an aspiring filmmaker, whether that's you're new or intermediate or advanced, there has always been a massive issue getting access to financing to drive your production, whether that's film or TV, doesn't really matter what it is. Typically, it is a pretty concentrated industry with like studios and big production houses. Unless you're very well connected as a independent creative, it can historically be quite a long, arduous process to tap into those funds. So it can take anywhere from 6 months to 10 years or not at all. So with that, we kind of recognize that based on the whole premise of power of the crowd and leveraging new forms of technology, then what a great opportunity to give power back to these creatives that have fantastic stories that are struggling to get them being told, and then they can be back in the driver's seat to drive their own bus with creating their productions, maintaining more financial and creative autonomy over their own IP. And then with that, you also open up a whole bunch of doors for fans where you're going past just the consumption of content in the cinema or a streaming service. You're actually getting face to face with actors, and you're going to red carpet premieres, and you're getting physical props from on set. There's just a whole long list of utilities and perks that we can tie in to these NFTs. So our model is basically someone can submit their story or their script into the Mogul platform. We actually had several come through this afternoon. So that's open to anyone in the world. So anyone who has a story or a script or a pitch deck around their IP, they kind of submit that through the portal. We then have an internal team that reviews that process and kind of the IP that gets submitted. And then once we've done that, we then provide some guidance to provide a framework to filmmakers where we can assist in helping them, I guess, craft the ideation for that NFT campaign, and then they kind of go down what they can provide a potential NFT buyer with access and experiences. Then off the back of that, we then provide a platform where then they can build an audience and they can get involved with our community and build their own community using these technologies to kind of really help put their IP out there to an engaged audience. And then in doing so, they can drive revenue by them kind of hustling their own IP, by hustling their own to NFT sales. They're directly driving financing for their film, and that way they maintain creative control. They maintain equity in the film. They don't have to give that away, and then in doing so, they're creating a really engaged user base from the ground up. So even if you have a shortfall in financing, so for example, let's just say somebody raises 20% of their production budget. So that 80%, if they were to take that to private equity or a film fund or like a rebate in a certain state with looking to get some money back, that is a lot easier because in the world of film finance, nobody wants to be the first person to put money in. So by having, whether that's 100 or 5,000 or 10,000 people that are engaged and they've kind of provided some support both financially and from a community level to your project, that then enables you to scale the financing or at least expedite that through other sources and channels. So that's kind of a bit around. I know I'm kind of I'm jumping in a few different buckets here, but I'm just kind of winging it. But jump in if you
No,
if
you're
yeah.
awesome. I
No,
mean,
thanks.
I started to ask some questions and you started to answer them. I was like, as you were speaking. So thank you for helping us understand how to specifically engage with your products, right?
Yeah, thank you. For sure. And yeah, so like that is a huge component of that. So I've obviously like spoken about the model a little bit and kind of the redistribution of power, and then I guess I can talk about a bit more about the experiences that the filmmakers can provide said fans to then kind of drive that revenue and experience. So typically, the model is that majority of the films that come to us that's launching on Mogul, they're mostly in development phase. So with that, like they do have an opportunity to kind of really build an audience, and it's quite an interesting concept because in traditional film and I guess business in general, there's not always that heavy emphasis on community building. It is quite a new paradigm shift with Web3. So with that, like as I said, it kind of de-risks the ability to finance a film, but you also can provide that access where from the whole like in development phase through to pre-production, production, post-production, and then distribution throughout that whole kind of 5 phases of the life cycle of the film, you can provide perks and experience and value. So to give you some context and examples around that, you could have like in development phase, you could have like a signed version of a script. For like distribution, you could have a red carpet premiere. For like in production phase, you could have like a FaceTime with the lead actor, or maybe you get to go on set. Maybe pre-production, you get like behind the scenes kind of like cast shots or like casting videos from different actors or actresses that are applying. You could get physical props. Like it's really quite endless. It ultimately depends on whatever they're willing to provide, like the IP owner or the filmmaker. Yeah, so that's kind of like in terms of the experience. And then we're also kind of really focused on both virtual and physical experiences. So we currently have about 5 or 6 virtual film cinemas that we've been developing in different virtual worlds in the metaverse that will actually enable film fans to go and watch content and have experiences in the metaverse where they can kind of come as their own 3D virtual avatar, which is pretty wild, but it's kind of like it's in the process of happening, and that's kind of a new way to consume content. You can do it all in the comfort of your own home. We can have like live Q&As with cast and crew at kind of like the Mogul theaters and cinema. So yeah, that's kind of another angle we're using, looking forward to drive engagement and users and get these digital communities involved.
That's
So I guess I can stop there for a moment. Then if you want
no,
me to dive into anything, I can
that's
kind of
really, really exciting.
yeah.
And Rio, you can chime in as well here for a second too. But Rio, um, we discussed quite a bit of what we watch in meta culture, providing experiences in the metaverse, right? And that new approach is really exciting. And we're glad that you are, getting people involved in the production of that and funding that and making that a sustainable new way, right? To experience film and interacting with human beings. The hesitance, right, obviously is okay, so why should I do this, right? People that are supporting independent artists and filmmakers in the traditional sense, right, that join my community every week to talk about the films and shows that we love, understand kind of how it gets to the distribution for them on their screens, right? To say, hey, I can turn on Netflix and watch this show or this movie, but not a lot of people are particularly, unless you're in the industry, right? Like I am, like specifically involved in the development phase, right? There's the development phase slash the financing. Then, like you were saying, it's pre-production, production, post-production, and then there's marketing and distribution, right? So those are like the kind of like phases of a film, and it's like an entire living world, right? It's constantly moving. It's a very collaborative effort, and so what we watch is here to make sure that those audience stay engaged. And Mogul is here to say the audience can be engaged from the development phase, right? So can you talk a little bit more about that? And let me let Ria speak too. But Jake, maybe you can speak a little bit more to like how specifically we can get involved from the development phase. What does that look like? Are we buying NFTs? Are we creating NFTs? How are we getting involved with blockchain? What are the hesitants? What are some of the kind of blockers with the onboarding process? Right. Let's get into the nitty gritty about what stops people from wanting to go this route or be involved with their favorite artists in this way, in this Web3, Film 3 kind of way. Rio, go ahead.
Well, real quick, I actually I want to keep listening. I want to keep listening real quick.
Great.
My antennas are way up right now because I'm loving everything I'm hearing. So like I want him to finish first, and then I'll chime in.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Go ahead, Mogul.
Yeah, thanks guys.
Oh, you Mogul
Cool.
everything.
That's all good. Yeah, so just to dive into that, with the development phase and what that looks like for potential people that are looking to back a project. So to kind of provide a bit more color into that, basically how it would work is that if somebody likes a story or the concept of the story or who's attached to it or whatever, they can buy an NFT, which acts as obviously proof of ownership. It's tokenized. It's on chain. Everything like that. But that token then provides access and experience throughout that whole script to screen journey. So for someone that, as you said, the reality is like most people are used to consuming content that's already gone through this whole process. They kind of open up Netflix or put on the TV and they just kind of watch whatever they want. But for people that have a bit more of an interest in the film world, or like the technology, or like the concept of getting involved and meeting actors and seeing how films work and getting all this exclusive experience, which quite frankly has never really been offered to people before. So it's quite interesting when you say that about the onboarding and stuff like that. It's really unique because we're really providing products for people that have never consumed these products. They don't even really know that they want them, but we know that once it's positioned to them correctly, they will want it. It's just a matter of overcoming that technological hurdle of using a new digital wallet, or like the concept of proof of ownership. All that kind of stuff is still very foreign to people. But in terms of like an access and experience route, like we do think, based on the stuff we've done previously and our market research and where things are heading, we do think it's going to be more of like an immersive experience where it's community driven. People have more of an input with the ability to vote on things, and you can kind of see that with DAOs popping up now as well. So yeah, that's kind of the idea. Is that yes, you obviously still get people that will just watch content, uh, just as they do currently in like a Web 2 format. But there are going to be people that want a bit more than that. They want to be curious. And for us, like our kind of structure is that yes, you can get this access and experience, and then there's also the ability to do fractionalized ownership of movies as well. That is still more so in its infancy, in the sense that when you start promising fractionalized ownership, it does get very muddy with then becoming a security. So, for those listening, if they don't understand what that means, it means that if you're saying that, then you then have to basically have accredited investors coming through, like going through a whole KYC process and stuff like that. So, it has its pros and its cons. But for us, we're primarily focused on providing that kind of community access and experience where, let's just say hypothetically, if someone paid an NFT for $100 and they got all of this peripheral value attached to this IP of the film and all these experiences and red carpets and stuff, then our goal is to provide a lot more value than whatever they would have provided. Whatever they would have paid for the NFT. And that way, like once they've exhausted that value and that utility, they're not necessarily looking to flip it, because it's kind of similar in the sense that if you buy like a festival ticket and you go and see your favorite band, and that's a really awesome experience, then you're not going to go and like resell the ticket after you've been to the concert. Like it's just, you're really happy to have that experience. So it's the same kind of logic, but then you kind of layer in the whole community component, which does have elements of like longevity and kind of spin-offs and derivatives and stuff like that, merchandise. But without kind of rambling on too much, hopefully that provides a little bit more context.
Yeah, I really, really appreciate that. Go ahead, Rio.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna double back and do a proper introduction, but I want to go right into something I'm thinking about before I forget it. All
Absolutely.
right. So what I have learned, and I've only started in the NFT world and the whole cryptocurrency world in 2020, but I'm a fast learner and I research and read a lot. What I've learned is, for a moment, you have to divorce yourself of the thought of an NFT and give people what they're familiar with. People are familiar with a backstage pass, like, or even a tier of music. Let's just go with music. Let's just say I told someone whose favorite musician that they listen to on a stream that you'll not only get an opportunity to go to the concert, not only will you get an opportunity to get on the front row of that concert, you'll also get an opportunity to go backstage, right? Let's take it even further. Let's say you have an opportunity to not only go backstage, but you also have the opportunity for one whole day to travel with this favorite artist that you have. That means when they're on tour, that means when they're on a plane, when they go to eat, they're doing the whole thing. You get a chance to have a one-on-one experience. Now, this is not something that every single fan is going to have. And as a matter of fact, a regular ticket is not going to get you that. Even a top tier ticket is not going to get you that. But a specialized type of ticket that gives you the opportunity to do that experience is immersive. And people don't think about the fact that that is an immersive experience, because you get an opportunity to be in the life of this particular artist and the way that they move around, what they eat, where they go, even if it's just for that one day. So once you speak that way to people who are very unfamiliar about what an NFT is and the utility and what it can actually give to them, when you speak to it to them in that type of a manner, then they become familiar with it. Then you insert that same concept to them again and say NFT, and then they begin to understand it. I've been doing that, and people have an idea of what they're getting, and now they don't feel, because most people are just concerned about their money. Let's go right to the heart of it. They feel like they're just going to throw their money in the garbage because they don't understand what an NFT is. They're getting ready to put a dollar bill that they know they can go to the store and buy bread with into something that they kind of don't know what they're getting out of, even after you explain it, even after you explain all those things. And once that type of bridging familiar with the unfamiliar happens, then they're able to see how it is a benefit. Um, I'm gonna add a little more to that later, but then I'm gonna flip back around and say, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I really appreciate that. I think as we were preparing for this space, I know there's, kind of a pushback. A lot of people are not comfortable with the unknown, right? And not only are we uncomfortable with the unknown, but we reject kind of change because we think it's a bad thing. And if we look at change as a good thing, or if we look at change as, like you were saying, Rio, it's not that different, right?
Exactly.
Is a digital representation of any asset. You have some form of that you experience every day already, that now that we're in the digital world. Like in some form or fashion, like you were saying, Rio, I can call the coin that I bought digitally on the video game 2.5, 3, 5 years ago as an NFT, but this time it's just like, included ownership for the game, it not just in-game playing value, right? And so
Exactly.
when we start to say things like that, it's like, yes, NFT is this new word, and Film 3 and Web 3 and ethereal or whatever it is, and blockchain and DeFi, right? We're throwing around a lot of terms, but we've really just kind of started to create this universe, metaverse, around those terms that we've kind of been engaging with already in certain ways, right? And so when we
Exactly.
bring it back to the film world, like you were saying, I went to a movie premiere last night. I bought a digital ticket that was scanned through a digital QR code. Then I was given a paper ticket, which I like just to have as far as like a little, like, momentum or whatever it's called, memento or whatever it's called. But a lot of my experience with this premiere was digital. So how could I have been on the front end of that, experiencing that premiere in the development phase, or having experiences with the director even more so, without making sure that that's solidified before I even meet him in person, like I did yesterday. So that's where Mogul Productions comes in and can say, hey, this is where the value of your dollar is. Here's why your digital wallet can provide you access. And here's how you can continue to go to these premieres, right? Mogul Productions, are we speaking out of turn here? Or is this kind of helping?
No, definitely. I agree with everything you're saying, and just to kind of expand on what Rio was saying, 100% agree. And I think that the minimizing the amount of terms and connotations within this industry, that is key, because most people, like, it's just speaking a different language, and the more they feel isolated and not they don't understand, the less likely they're able to dive into anything. So that's kind of like when I'm chatting to filmmakers, I usually don't even try to mention the word NFT until like the end, because we kind of like lean into first, okay, like what problems are we helping solve? If you chat to a filmmaker and say, hey, like we have the ability to leverage a platform for you to build an audience and solve the issue of film financing. They're like, wow, like you have my attention. So that is kind of how we usually kick things off. And then, but from a consumer standpoint, I also agree that there has to be minimal barriers to entry and minimal friction. And I think in the film world, the first main areas of that will be like proof of attendance protocol NFTs, like that. That's a mouthful, but like you guys know what I mean. Like you get kind of a commemorative digital collectible if you go to a certain event or experience, like that is free. There's no cost, so that is a great way to kind of get people getting their toes dipped into the water by saying they're getting exposed to something where they don't have to pay money for it. So that's a really important thing. The next biggest thing that I think in the world of film and music is going to be ticketing. So as soon as people get familiar with using ticketing to go to experiences, it's just a lot easier. Like we're actually seeing now with some airlines are leveraging NFTs to do airline tickets. So it is getting integrated. It's kind of happening as we speak. But where I'm kind of going with that is that we need to minimize friction, implement the technology into use cases that they're already familiar with. So then they don't really think about NFTs or technology. They're just kind of used to buying something or experiencing something, and there's just a new kind of added cool layer on top of that. They don't need to understand blockchain or technology, if that makes sense.
Right. Absolutely. And so I want to let Rio speak and kind of introduce himself as an artist, as a creator in this digital world, an extremely talented one. We have an event coming up here this weekend on Saturday. Looking forward to everyone kind of joining if you're listening after or if you're currently in the space right now. Please feel free to visit any of our pages to see that. But I want to let Rio speak to that. But before I do, I also want to let you guys know that in the next like 10 to 15 minutes, we can have, for the next 10 to 15 minutes after Rio's completed, we can have questions and have Jake answer some questions for us. My first one will kind of be for people that do own NFTs, for you guys to come on up and kind of talk about, okay, what can I do with my current NFTs, or which ones should I buy, or what website should I go to, and what type of digital wallet. And we're not financial advisors in any form or shape or form, but Mogul Productions, if you could let us know how we could specifically engage with your product in this space, that would be really nice for people that do have NFTs right now or do own something in their MetaMask or whatever. That'd be fun. So think about your questions right then. If you do own NFTs, if you are familiar, and even if you aren't, let us know how we can help you get involved with seeing more movies that you like. I mean, who doesn't want to do that? We want to see movies that we like. We want to see shows that we enjoy not get canceled because the studios don't want to put more money into them, right? That's why we're here. Those are the problems that we're solving here. So I'll be quiet, but thank you, Jake and Rio. Go ahead, give us all about Rio.
Well, first and foremost, Monique, thank you so much for holding the space, putting it together, bringing all these creative and powerful, innovative minds together. My name is Rio Sarah. I am CEO of Metaculture. Metaculture is a group of elite creators from all fields of entertainment who've decided to tokenize their talents through NFTs. I have been kicking it off as far as being a body painter, a canvas artist, a muralist, a graphic designer, special effects makeup artist for film, and all around artists all the way around. I mean, I could go all the way down the list. If you have something that's physical, I've probably painted on it. Um, the the nature of Metaculture and why I created it. I'll start from the very, very top and try to get through this as quickly as I can. But Metaculture was started because of my son. My son was watching Black Panther, the movie. He was very excited about it, as he should be. It was a very great movie. But then afterwards, I noticed how much he was excited about a fictional character that came from a group of real people. So the Black Panther Party inspired Stan Lee. Like, people don't even know that half of the story. But these young guys in Oakland were in college, and during the situations of civil unrest, they formed the Black Panther Party. I wanted my son to know who Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale was. And I felt like in order for him to have that level of excitement about these real life heroes, I wanted to take real life people from history and make them superheroes. Create graphic design and make them look very powerful and edutain people. It is important to me to edutain people. That means educate and entertain at the same time. So Metaculture was born from the fact of seeing my son's excitement about that story, and I felt that he should be just as excited on the history of why this character was created. Now, once that was done, back in 2020, when the whole world was running around panicking, I just took notice that this type of thing had happened before, and I was like, if somebody is benefiting from this and making money from this, I want to know where, because there's always money to make from a crisis. And so it led me towards uh, the digital world, and it led me towards stocks, actually, specifically, and stocks led me to crypto, and crypto led me to NFTs. And immediately I started studying and reading up on things then. Um, and um, Once I combined those two worlds together, I had been sitting on doing the hero idea with the Black superheroes for a very long time. I was sitting on that idea since 2018, but it wasn't until NFTs came that it really made sense to me. I was like, okay, now I see where I can put my art at. And at the time, the only utility was just educating people, like giving them a small video of information about the character that they was looking at. But as I continued to read on it, I said, wow, there's more that can be done here. There's video that can be added here. There's utility. There's opportunities. There's events. There is merchandise. All those things that can be added on top of these items. And so as metaculture is growing even right now, that combined with wanting people to walk into the artwork. I want people to buy an art piece, a physical art piece, right? Hang it on their wall, put their phone in front of it, and see another world created from behind that painting in AR, and then take it a step further and go into VR and be able to walk into the painting that they just bought and have a whole world inside of that painting in VR, where not only can they be a part of it, but they can share that world, they can access that world um, through VR, and they can give other people opportunities to see it, and they can even charge people a somewhat of a fee to come and see their world that they've built behind the painting that was created. So all of those things blended together to create metaculture. The second half of this is I am the co-owner of um, Clairvoyant Pictures and Entertainment, and I'm gonna be real quick on this too. Um, Once again, story of just seeing a need or seeing a want, and then trying to access that want, which was there were stories me and my brother felt that there just wasn't being told. And we were like, the industry is very tight. They'll keep making Chucky 55 times. If people watch it, they'll keep making Halloween. Another Halloween is coming out. So it's just like, where are the original stories where people aren't afraid to create a whole new bag, and where can that live? And this is where NFTs and film started making a very it started making a whole lot of sense to me. And even all of the things that you said, Jake, I hope I'm saying it right, added on to thoughts that I was thinking of that I didn't even think about until you said, because I have a friend that buys movie props from he bought a few from Blade, he bought a few from, but imagine if he had bought an NFT and he could have gotten all of those things with the ticket. The same ticket he went to go watch the movie with is now the same ticket he's using to purchase a prop from the actual film.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, that's interesting. I like that.
That's really exciting. Yeah.
I have, I can be talkative, but I'm gonna cut myself here a little bit to hear some more. But I'm very interested in everything that you were saying, Jake, and um, the film that I am currently working on is called Tits and Zombies. It's a zombie movie. It's a very wild story, but
The trailer is amazing, you guys.
but to just give a quick synopsis, a very quick synopsis. It seems to me and my brother were talking, and we were like, people get so much money to make movies that are just ridiculous. They have silly titles, like, and we just played back and forth, like Dracula and Pimps, or Sharknado, or the Killer Tomatoes, and then I was like Tits and Zombies, and he was like, wait a minute, I got an idea for that. And so the story pretty much breaks down to that Hollywood has given us great horror characters: werewolf, mummy, Frankenstein, Dracula. But to me and my brother, the biggest horror story itself is Hollywood itself. That was the story that was never told. Hollywood itself is a monster. And that's what this movie is about.
Mm.
Um, in short, is the story, the horrid story of celebrities and people who have given their souls away to Hollywood for fame and fortune, and they end up coming out the other end as a zombie, or coming out the other end worse off than they were with drug addict abuse and all these different aspects than they did before they got in. So that's the smaller aspect without me being extremely long-winded. But
No, thank you.
That's
Thank you.
dope. I ain't gonna lie. Cause that movie sounds like it needed to be created because ain't nobody gonna really tell that kind of story or
Right,
paint that kind of visual.
right,
exactly. And this is why NFTs are so great and important to me as far as building community. Because yes, Monique, like you said, it is a lot of moving parts. But what's so funny is it seems that community should already be a byproduct of so many parts. And going to what Jay said, it's not. It's funny. It's a weird paradox because if anybody should be about community, it should be film, because it takes so many moving people to do it.
oh my god,
But
yes,
but
it's literally it becomes family.
it, it should be family automatically. But it's like once the movie is made and watched, it's done. And then this is where
Mhm.
NFTs come in and give an experience that can keep going and going and going. And I have a lot of gems in my head, and I'm going to share that a little later if I get the opportunity. But I have a lot of ideas of how this can all make sense in the web world, in Web3, NFTs, and the customers understanding what they are getting and wanting to claw their way to buy it.
Right, right. Especially in this new film three world. And I wanna thank you for that, Rio Sarab, because it brings us back to kind of why Jake is here. And I wanted to ask you, Jake, I mean, you are employed under Mogul for like marketing specifically, right? You are specifically here to talk about the product. So I don't know your specific involvement with the creators and artists of these ideas, but as we're listening here to Rio, so I'll talk about how do I get my stories told, right? A lot of times I like to call filmmakers storytellers, screenwriters storytellers. These are the stories that change our lives. These are the stories that create businesses like mine for what we watch. These are the stories that bring people together, right? And so those ideas are born, and then, like you said, Jake, they kind of maybe just sit in the universe, in the metaverse, or in whatever verse because of a lack of funding, and that's where Mogul Productions comes in. So can you talk a little bit about like what you've seen, or if you have anybody, any of your coworkers that talk about the process of like, here's how my idea came to be and here's how I got it funded. Can you give us a success story or something?
Yeah, for sure. And yes, I kind of like, well, technically my role is like head of business development. So I kind of sit across the marketing, but also I work very closely with a lot of the filmmakers, and I've kind of helped develop the whole onboarding process and the framework and stuff like that. So I do really enjoy meeting with these people because it's so, I'm not a creative, I'm more of like a business generation marketing guy, where it's always, I
But
find it
we have to
fascinating.
bridge that gap, right?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. So
Right.
I really enjoy working with creatives like that, where they've got so many good ideas and stuff. So, but yeah, to answer your question, I think for us, like part of our role is to help simplify things because, as we said before, there is a lot of uncertainty. We try to simplify things for people that are making that leap into Web3, but we try to minimize the leap and just kind of like really dumb it down to experiences and things like that. But with that being said, in terms of like some examples, like yeah, we've like last year we helped finance 3 different films. Those are all hybrid financing models. So by that I mean a mixture of crypto, a mixture of private equity, and we use our film fund as well. Um, so that was kind of the way those three were put forward, and then we then had a pretty big focus for the last 18 months on really building out our platform and user experience, and like adding some more products that create things very seamless and vertically integrated. And then from that, we're now in a position where we're in kind of like a scaling mode, where between now and early next year, we've got about 15 new films launching on the platform with all independent creatives. mostly feature films, but a few animated series and stuff like that. So, so I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I kind of can you just
No,
if
yeah. No,
yeah.
I'm glad that you kind of explained specifically your title and your involvement, but that's exactly what I was asking. Like from a creative standpoint, as a filmmaker and a writer myself,
Mhm.
you told me kind of how I get access and onboard and get involved with your products. But like, I come in here and I say, oh my gosh, I have this great idea. I want to do this storytelling. Is there like a vetting process? And do you hear a lot of the creators say a lot of the same things? Like, are people that are not, what if people that have funding but still want to create different experiences, or they're coming and saying, hey, the funding is not my biggest issue. My biggest issue is community. My biggest issue is getting people involved in this project. Does Mogul provide those kind of aspects as well, or is it always just I'm here, I want to tell my story, help me get it funded?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a mixture. I would say with that, like they're mostly unsure about, like they say, oh, like what should I provide a film fan, because they haven't really gone through this process, or they haven't needed to go through this process of actually thinking about it because it is so new. So what we typically try to do is like provide sort of just like simple visuals. So like, here you go, here's like 45 different examples of things that we've used or you can use within the script to screen process from development through to distribution, and then they basically pick out what they think they'll be able to execute, for sure. And then if there's anything further that's maybe like unique that's based around that IP, we can kind of provide some inspiration to kind of tie that into the whole NFT offering. So that's kind of like from the experience side, and then how it's kind of structured is that yes, it is currently a curated platform in the sense that anyone in the world can submit their story, but ultimately there is a vetting process. And with that, kind of the main things we look for, they don't necessarily have to have funding, but given that we live in a visual world and there is elements of marketing involved, if people have like casts attached, or if they have like a movie poster, if they have a sizzle reel, if someone's produced a film before and it's had commercial success or critical success, those are all kind of factors that play into the vetting process. And at the moment, as I said, it is curated, but as we scale and get more of a critical mass of users over the next few years, or not even that long, but we're opening that up to anyone can submit. We're building like what's called like a creators portal, where they can actually go in and just list their own story and have their own landing page for their film, and then ultimately the community decides whether they're going to back it or not. But all with kind of within the niche of film and entertainment. So yeah, that's kind of like future state. But now we're just trying to really focus on certain projects that we think will resonate well with the audience and kind of go from there.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm gonna say quite a bit. You're not too much here, but I am gonna put you on the spot and ask you a couple of questions. Um, but just to kind of give you an understanding of, again, we're so glad that Mogul Productions wanted to work in tandem with what we watch to provide this space and this information for people. This is huge. Like Rio Sorrell likes to say, we're making history here, right? This is unique. This is powerful. A lot of creative minds, a lot of business minds, a lot of intelligent minds coming together to make sure that we can continue to experience the art of storytelling through film. And this is my entire passion, right? And a lot of what we watch, the reason why my community is so valuable and the reason why artists like Rio Ra are so valuable is because we provide that community and that collaboration that mirrors kind of what it takes to create a movie. And so we're not just here to watch films and turn off the TV and not be a part of the story or the experience anymore. I encourage people to look up directors. I encourage people to look up the genres and why they went that way, or how they received funding, or the history of the actors, or the cinematography behind certain films, and how everyone gets involved, right? To the person that's dubbing the languages, right? There's someone hired on set sometimes if a movie is in Japanese and they want to sell it out here, they have someone dub it, the editors, everybody involved, sound design, the gaffers. There's so much, there's a community in and of itself, but there's also community in the audience and the consumption, right? Because all that work is made possible, and they're allowed to continue to make the work when their first projects are successful. And I say that to say, specifically, how is Mogul Productions planning to involve specifically Black artists, right? So giving access to Black artists. Rio Sarah was talking about Hollywood as the kind of monster first, right? But behind just financing as an issue, there is like a lot of barriers to entry for independent artists of color, right? Specifically Black people as well. So what kind of conversations, and not just the surface level of diversity, but as you do reach critical mass, and you do, I want Mogul Productions to be completely, successful. How are you going to make sure that your Black artists and your Black audiences are engaged, and that they have the access in the same ways that others do? Because you can't talk about a barrier to finance without talking about the racist approaches to that as well, and the kind of barriers to people that don't have as much.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, it's well said for sure. So I guess to kind of dive into that, firstly, with that whole kind of premise of democratization, where we're kind of presenting stories like whether they're from India or from Asia or from could be anywhere in the world. Like as long as they have a good story and they've got something to tell, like we don't really care where they're from. But with that being said, to kind of expand on that, so we have a guy called Lyric Bent, who's he grew up in Toronto, but he's living in LA right now. He's a Black man from Toronto, as I said, but he is really involved with the African American community, and he's also he's helped bring a ton of really talented individuals and creatives into Mogul through his network. So we're really working with him on getting more creatives into the platform. So that's a huge focus. We're also actually partnered with the Real World film festival. That's a film festival based out of Toronto that are focused on BIPOC and people of color. And we're partners with those guys to shine a light on what they're doing, and we're working with some of their creatives as well. And we're also implementing NFT education to their community. So yeah, there's a few things. That's just a few things off the top of my head, but yeah, no, it's I think it's really important. Like I think it's the same thing even with women in the space, like or like whether the term minority is the right term or not, but like I go to these crypto conferences, and the reality is it's like 90% white men, and and it's not good for the industry. So every time there's people from different walks of life and different cultures, I think that's fantastic, and ultimately what the industry needs to get to mainstream adoption.
Exactly, and this is right across all industries, but especially in film too. I mean, like you said, when you lack that kind of diversity, and again, not surface level diversity, but when you lack the women, when you lack the Black people, and from a development phase, but also like a supportive phase, a consumer, a customer phase, you are limiting the success of your company. And even if you are like, specifically focused on money, you are hurting your bottom line if you're not creating that access to those marginalized communities. And so I'm glad that Mogul Productions is beginning to do and partner with people like you. I think I forget his name. I don't think you gave us his name, but the man in Toronto, and these communities that provide NFT education for marginalized communities, Black people, queer people, people of color, in other countries around the world. I think it's very important. I'm a Black Latina myself, right? I don't know that I can name any other Black Latinas that own any NFTs, and that needs to change, right? And if that changes, then Mogul Productions can be even more successful. Mogul Productions can have even more successful initiatives and funding for their projects to continue to get these unique stories. Because like Rio was saying, we don't want to see Deadpool 30. I definitely love Deadpool 1 and 2, and I'm down to see 3. But before we get to Deadpool 30, can we get a lot of these unique stories from these storytellers with more layered viewpoints of the world, right? With a lot more experience that has kind of forced us to be a little bit more empathetic, a little bit more introspective, a little bit more involved with what's outside of I think they call it the crypto bros. I always laugh at that because I'm like, there's crypto sisters too, right? Like there's crypto sis. But my friend in the audience always laughs at me. But like you're saying, you go to these events and it's 90% white men. And that's ultimately, that's stifling, that's hurting the industry. There has to be some diversity there because when you bring in, and I can tell you firsthand as an owner of what we watch, when you bring in those Black communities and give them access and create and help them remove barriers, the success is endless. Rio Sarah, am I speaking out of turn here, or am I on point, Rio? Hello.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I actually wanted to chime in and say this if I could. Once again, the title of metaculture is elite artists. Artists before color, before gender, as far as my reasonings for advancing metaculture was that I like dope work. Period. And as humans, we understand, like everybody can kind of like play the cordial first person type attitude when they see things, meaning like, everyone's a winner and everyone's great and everyone, but come on, man. We know what good looks like when we see it. We know what awful looks like when we see it. We hear friends' music and be like, I really don't like it, but I don't want to tell them I don't like it because it's my friend. And, I just, hey, man, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. But look, there's no discussion, period, when you hear something or you see something and it's great. It was well put together. It was well thought out. The costumes look great. The introduction looked great. Like the art looked great. And I think just as much important as it is to include people from all walks of life, it's very important to include people who are fantastic, even if they're a little bit doper than you. And that's what people be scared of. That's what the industry is really like has a problem with. The reason why you'll see the good old boys having their club is because they are a little frightened that this guy might be able to play basketball a little bit better than me. This guy might be able to box a little bit better than me. This woman might be a better writer than me. This director might just be, a better director than me, and he's gay or he's black and that's the problem. So it's like the thing with continuing to build metaculture as I have continued to grow with it was just that in the 19th century, we look at great works. The Sistine Chapel was not the 19th century, but but great works from the 15th all the way to this century. We've seen timeless pieces that people keep repeating. Snow White was a story written by somebody else, but Disney did it over and over and over and over again because it was a classically written story from the time that the person conceived it. Pinocchio, all of that. Walt Disney didn't really do anything different. He just took stories that were already done and he redid them in his imagination. But when he redid it in his imagination, he did it with a certain level of perfection. And I think for me, highlighting the things that make us great as human beings should supersede. And I know I'm speaking like an idealist, but it should supersede the exterior just because the work is great. I'm gonna finish. I'm gonna wrap it up. There are people who, when I looked at the history of them, they were racist. I mean, Walt Disney's one of them. Let's just go with there. But the work is undeniably great. So I know how to separate the work from the person and not necessarily, there's some things I still may not want to get into anymore if I find out, the background of someone was into things that are morally inept. But for the most part, in general, if it's great, rock with the greats, build with the greats, and create a community surrounded around a foundation that says no matter who you slept with and what color you are and if you're a man or woman, the work that we put together was amazing.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you for that. And Mogul Productions, I know we gave you a mouthful, but we really appreciate everything that you've shared about what Mogul Production is doing. And Jake, do you have about 5 minutes for questions, maybe from the audience?
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
Awesome. It's like 10 p.m. where you are.
No, I'm in Vancouver, so it's all
you're in
good.
Vancouver. Okay, good.
Yeah.
You're good. I wasn't sure. I have so many meetings. I know I had a meeting with someone that was on the East Coast.
No worries.
I see Jasmine in the audience. Sam. Hi, Sam. Welcome. Always love seeing Sam in the space. Sprite, Sherrod. Any questions for Mogul Productions on how to get involved from the development phase of film? Or, hey, I'm comfortable with being in the audience. I'm comfortable with just going to film premieres or just consuming the art. How can I get into the crypto world and continue to just be an audience member? Any questions from the audience there? Anyone own any NFTs and curious for the NFT marketplace available on is it mogul.com, Mogul Productions?
Local productions, yeah. So there's the marketplace there, but yeah, like obviously, as I said, like we're focused mostly on the niche of film, just because there's so many different industries. It's kind of rather than doing 20 different things, we just want to try and do one thing well and kind of go from there.
Right. That's every filmmaker. Like, do I want to write, direct it, and cast it? You gotta perfect one thing, be good at that, and then kind of build your team around that. I want to welcome Jasmine to the stage. Jasmine's a very close friend of mine, a very avid supporter of what we watch. Jasmine, tell us a little bit about yourself and what interested you in this topic.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you for having me. So I'm an avid, I guess you could say, NFT collector. And I think like when you think about tokenomics and forecasting, what's important to me is not only like the utility now, but how it can change over time. Because this NFT could grant me, I guess, like an experience or a backstage pass or whatever, but that does not mean that that's the end of the road for that NFT. Like it can always change depending on like the audience or what the community sees. So I guess my question would be like, how are you making sure, like, I know you have initiatives to like bring in the underserved community, but like, are there initiatives in place to really educate them so that they are not like left behind?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think ultimately education is the key to everything, really. Like, it doesn't matter whether it's crypto or business or traveling or anything. It's being educated enables you to make more informed decisions about what you're doing and makes you feel more confident in those decisions. So I think generally speaking, yeah, like from our internal standpoint, we do try to create like, blog posts of how to actually run you through processes, like create videos and stuff like that. Like, we're not an educational I guess platform in the sense like but we do try to provide content that enables people to have an easier onboarding process. But I do think education in general for crypto and NFTs is still not where it needs to be. My personal opinion is that any newbie that comes into an exchange, there's actually like for the most people, like that's obviously where they're buying crypto to buy NFTs, right? There has to be, I would actually almost have like a vetting process where you need to do like a 10 or 20 minute or half an hour course, however long it is, to actually show that you have an understanding of what you're doing. I don't think that'll probably happen because everyone's driven by money, but that is probably what should happen to get people familiar with what it is, because the biggest barrier for me, like, is that you look at the concept of having a digital wallet, where it's like, hey, if you send that to one wrong little number, you've lost your money forever. That concept scares the hell out of people, right? Because it's like, oh, if I send an e-transfer to my mate Johnny down in San Francisco, then like that is probably recoverable, right, via the bank. But there's nothing you can do to get your money back. So you do have to. So where I'm kind of going with this is that the education is paramount, because you are taking control of your own financial sovereignty. And that's powerful, but at the same time, it has high consequences. So without me kind of like rambling on, hopefully that kind of provides a bit of light. But to answer your question, yes, we are kind of focused on providing as much educational content as well. And whether that, like, in all forms of the globe, we have different like language channels in our community. Like we've got like different Asian channels. We've got people in Turkey. We're working actually with a gentleman who's from Rwanda, getting his film up on the platform in a few weeks. So it's a really quite a globalized community, I should say, which is really exciting. So we want to try and keep it that way and kind of keep going up for that diversity angle for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really exciting. Jasmine, did he answer your question? I think I just wanted to chime in and say I when I go to your website, I think that we're all in the learning process, and I think when you're a part of a company, especially a startup company, or you're at any point, that institutional knowledge is important, but also like the knowledge of your industry. And since we're in this unique space with crypto and all the 18 other terms we've thrown out, there's a challenge as a business person and as a consumer, right? And so I'm glad to know that Mogul Productions is kind of doing their best to bridge that gap and prioritizing education. But like Jasmine was saying too, the longevity and the utility of what I'm spending my money on is paramount, right? I know that I'm okay with spending $2 on a hamburger or a French fry, because the utility of that is just like it's immediate gratification, right? So $2, I wouldn't spend $200 on it because I'm only experiencing it for a little bit. But maybe I would spend $200 on an NFT that I know its utility can change over time, and it almost feels like I start to say equity, right? Like, oh, I have equity in this kind of experience, right? And that's fun. That's exciting. Mogul Productions providing that experience, what we watch, creating those communities where people can start talking about that and lean on each other to learn is really exciting. Jasmine, did you have any? Go ahead. Sorry, Jake.
Yeah, so I just realized I didn't really quite touch on that. So I just wanted to kind of clarify a couple of things. So with that, it is a great question because, but I think to kind of simplify it, like let's just say it is $200 that someone's buying an NFT.
Right.
For us, it's really important that we take, here is the for sure deliverables in utility that'll be applied to that NFT throughout the production process, through development, through to distribution. So that is for sure, as a minimum, what you'll get. And then as the kind of film evolves, like maybe that'll go into like a franchise or a trilogy, or maybe there'll be a merchandise collection off the back of it. Maybe there'll be like a quarterly meetup down in LA or New York or something. So that kind of stuff is definitely the intention, to kind of keep that community building initiatives. But I am also of the believer I would rather over deliver than over promise. So I'd rather say, here you go, here's XYZ on for sure what's being delivered. Because as we've seen with the NFT world over the last year, everyone's like, oh, I'm building a metaverse, I'm building a game. It's like, do you know how long it takes to build a game? Like, that takes years, right? And millions and millions of dollars. Because the whole concept of the business models of NFTs is also very flawed. If you look at like most projects, right? If you look at past the primary mint, do you think that most people are honestly going to be able to service a long-term viable business just on secondary market royalties? Highly unlikely. So you need to be pretty creative, or continually drop new products to an engaged community, because we're going to see that over the next few years, where all of these kind of big NFT companies, or projects, I should say, with providing that kind of long-term value to what Jasmine is saying, which is a really good point. So anyway, that's just kind of a few thoughts, and I'm kind of rambling a bit, but that's just, yeah.
Jasmine?
Oh no, that was a really great answer. The rambling was great as well. No, it's just important to me, like even as you talk about secondary marketplace, that people not only get like a percentage here on like what they create, but it's also creating generational wealth. And it's hard to like get the underserved communities in on the ground floor. And even if you look at like some of people's like invisible friend collections, or I guess Smiles collections, like the floor price of those are already way out of a lot of people's price range. So it's already like kind of boxed us out of owning them.
Right.
Yeah, no, definitely. There is that barrier, and like for most people, I'd say, like, especially like certain minorities and stuff. But it's a huge problem. And with that being said, like, I think that's why it's important to create NFTs around value as opposed to a speculative investment. Because if people are spending $500 to buy an Invisible Friends with the hope at 10x's, like, yeah, it might, but like our belief is like we want to be providing real world tangible value and experience as opposed to some speculation that's not really going to end well for most people. So that's kind of like I think more of like a long term viewpoint in the industry in general, which what needs to happen, because what we've seen primarily is the whole like kind of PFP craze, which, you know, there's a lot of merit to what's happening, but there's also a lot of crap and a lot of stuff that's just like hype, which is unfortunate.
Right. I love that. I love that answer, because I mean that's the title of this space, y'all. The value of NFTs to filmmakers and fans, and I love that you bring it back to that is the conversation that we're having. These are the problems that Mogul is solving. There's 100 more problems to address as well, but if we start here and we focus on these few, we can understand the value of the NFTs, get consumers involved, and really continue to support artists and filmmakers. Right. That's my own personal kind of approach to this. That's where I find value in sitting here talking to you guys for an hour, is building those communities to support artists and storytellers so I can continue to enjoy my life in my free time and connect with like-minded creative people. And then bringing in the business side of it is what your company is doing, Mogul. And earlier you were talking about kind of people just kind of saying, hey, I want to make a video game, right? I want to let you know, Jake, and I know you know this, but people do not understand the kind of behind the scenes with creating a lot of this stuff. They do not know that this took years to make and millions of dollars and hundreds of people, right? A lot of people do not understand what it takes to make a movie. They do not understand what it takes to make a video game. And I think that's part of why I created What We Watch, is to really celebrate the people behind it. Even the marketers and the head of business development, like you, Jake. Everyone's a very important piece of the puzzle when providing the stories that we see on screen. And what excites me is that these communities and these conversations help people get that access. They help people understand, and then that in turn helps them understand the value. Right. So, yeah, I just turn on Netflix every single day. It's a couple clicks of my remote control, and I spend, someone else's $15, because I don't even spend money on my Netflix account. I don't know about you guys. I'm on someone else's. And so, I'm a lot of, regular kind of, and I'm not saying regular in a negative tone, but people that just kind of experience art and enjoy it obviously don't understand the team and the money it took to back it up. But once they understand that that's what it takes, then they might find the value and be more involved. And then, that's where you come in, Mogul Productions, to kind of create those experiences, right? And that access.
Yeah, no, totally. And it's like, it's also it's really interesting, like different, I know like we're going to run out of time, but like the whole, even like the concept of distribution, I think that is primed for massive disruption in the film and entertainment space. We're not quite there yet, and there's still heavy reliance on traditional streaming and kind of distribution through cinemas and stuff. Like that's still definitely there, and it will be for a while. But I think that will be really interesting to watch evolve. Like you can kind of see some of these companies now that are having like watch to earn and stuff like that. I always am. I think you have to tread carefully when anything's like play to earn or watch to earn, because a lot of the tokenomics systems are pretty flawed, as we've seen with some examples this year. But yeah, look, that's exciting, right? Like there's lots of new things happening. Some things will stick, some things won't. But ultimately, you have to try and pave the way to solve some big problems.
Heck yeah, heck yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jake. That was What We Watched. Thank you so much, Rio Sarah, for giving us an experience. Thank you, Jasmine, for your question. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to tweet What We Watch Film TV, follow Mogul Productions, follow What We Watch Film TV, and follow Metaculture. Get involved. And we hope that you continue to find the value in the stories and that you see on screen, and that you continue to support the artists and the large collaborative teams of people that create that. Be sure to visit mogulproductions.com and connect your wallet so you can go ahead and be a part of that. Jake, once again, thank you so much. that was what we watch and the value of NFTs to filmmakers and fans. Thank you guys.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
You too.
All right.
Bye.
Great. Have a good night.